Now from CBS4 MyTV33 Studios, this is Focus on South Florida.
Good morning and welcome to Focus on South Florida, where we examine the issues behind the pulse of our community and put them into perspective. I'm CBS4's Rudabeh Shabazi. The 20th anniversary of the Stonewall Pride Wilton Manors Festival is coming up, and the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots themselves, a series of violent demonstrations by the gay community against a police raid in the early morning of June 28, 1969 at the Stonewall Inn in New York. The riots are widely considered to have been the biggest factor to precipitate the gay rights movement. This year's festival in Wilton Manors will take place on June 15th. Please welcome to the show Vice Mayor of Wilton Manors, Tom Green, and also joining me this morning is the Senior Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at the Greater Fort Lauderdale Convention and Visitors Bureau, Richard Gray, who also developed the Greater Fort Lauderdale's highly successful LGBT marketing initiative. It's a big title. I'm so glad to have you both. Thank you for joining me. So let's start just by telling people what this festival is all about in Wilton Manors. This is obviously a big party, but it also means a lot. It has a lot of history and means a lot to a lot of people.
And this is why we hold our festival in June, which is when the Stonewall riots occurred. Other festivals in Florida choose cooler months of the year to celebrate, but it's important to us to do it in June. And that's why we're going to be celebrating on the 15th of June. And I want to start off by quickly thanking our sponsor, the people that have helped us with the finances for this, and that's the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Without them, this would have been very difficult. Yeah, okay, well, so tell me a little bit about how you get people to come to South Florida in the middle of the summer in June. It's hot, it's humid, it's also not where the Stonewall riots took place. Why should they come here to Wilton Manors?
Well, I think it's important to let everybody know that the Greater Fort Lauderdale is the LGBT plus capital of Florida. I mean, it's the hub. Broward County is such an extraordinarily diverse and inclusive and welcoming community. Most people don't know, but we are a minority-majority county, that there are more people of color, there are more Latinos than there are white people, and we have a thriving LGBT plus community. So the destination itself is an amazing, easy draw.
Plus, you have the beach. You have all the natural beauty. And there's actually an LGBT planner on the website, right? So people can specifically plan their vacations. Tell me about that.
Well, particularly for this event, we now have a new website called WiltonManorsStonewall.com. And people coming to this festival, any questions they have about it, the information is there. We're trying to encourage people this year to come and leave their car at home.
That's a good idea.
The city, yes, the city has a discount for Uber and Lyft for people coming to the city, $5 off, and even Brightline, if it's still called that, is having discounts, but those you would have to check on their website.
And with all the celebration going on, that'll help keep people safe too, right? People in the area and people who are celebrating. So let's get back to the substance of the Stonewall riots. Some people in the gay community say this isn't what we should be celebrating, actually, because it was violent and it was an uprising. Maybe we shouldn't be focused on this. And others say this is really what started it all, combined with the counter movement of the 60s, the anti-Vietnam movement. This is really what kind of precipitated the gay rights movement.
I think we have to thank the transgender community, because they really led everything by the horns in Stonewall, and they just had it was enough was enough, and I think that was an epic start for everything that's happened. And you know, we've evolved and evolved and evolved, and you know, who would ever have thought that we would have marriage equality in the United States? So I think we do have to thank them for it, especially the transgender community.
And when we think back to the climate in which that took place, the gay rights movement wasn't underway at all. There was a lot of discrimination happening in gay bars, the few that there were that existed. There was a lot of discrimination happening across the board. So when you think about a festival like this and where we are now today, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's great, and being an older member of the community, I remember when it was very different. The riots were the first time where people stood up to the police. They used to just raid the gay bars because it was another week. And finally, a group fought back, and they had to call in reinforcements. So it was an amazing defiance that helped start this, and I've seen the incremental changes. And it's amazing the difference even 5 years ago, but certainly 15, 30 years ago, it certainly was different. And now in Wilton Manors, openly gay people comprise the entire city commission. And who would have ever thought that possible?
When you think about the incremental change you mentioned even 5 years ago, what has that been?
Well, again, I suppose if I'm allowed to go 10 years ago, I had a job that I would have been fired from. Not just for being gay, but there would have been related excuses. And 5 years ago, you still were very careful about what you said. You didn't go to Fort Lauderdale Beach and say, I'm a member of the gay community. The first parade that Fort Lauderdale ever had was this year. So the change has been amazing. And Wilton Manors, incredible changes over the last years. It was an economically depressed area, and no one wanted to live there. And the gay community made a great change there.
Well, it is exciting. So what do people say, the visitors who come from all over the world, all over the country, all over the world, especially for events like this? What kind of feedback do you get from them?
They love it. They love us. You know, we've been marketing for 24 years, LGBT tourism. So we've been a leader globally. And I think people like the fact that there's a great sense of ease in Greater Fort Lauderdale, that they feel welcome. We were the first destination to market to the trans community globally.
And how do you market to the trans community? What kind of initiatives do you take?
Well, we actually did a transgender travel study. It was the first ever. 4 years ago we did that transgender travel study, and we launched a campaign called Where Happy Meets Go Lucky. We actually filmed it in Wilton Manors, and we use amazing transgender people from our community, and we also, on the back of that, have one of the oldest transgender conferences in the United States. Is now held every year in Fort Lauderdale, called the Southern Comfort Transgender Conference. So I'm proud that we're a destination that welcomes all travelers. You know, it's irrespective of the color of your skin, irrespective of your religion, irrespective of who you love or how you choose to identify. We welcome everybody with wide open arms. It's
definitely a safe haven for a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of the visitors are not going to want to leave. Thank you both so much for being here, and we look forward to hearing how the festival goes this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, a unique short documentary competition focusing on South Florida neighborhoods, why our own backyard is like a candy store full of stories to tell. Next.